Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of The Evidence. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D, and do you know what we're looking at here? This is a giant ash heap of burnt-out remains, blackened cinders, and crumbling bits of an ancient civilization. I couldn't help but notice something nearly non-fractal over there on the right. You know, the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw this was Strut. You know, a shock-absorbing leg, like you'd find on an aircraft or a piece of heavy machinery. Now, no doubt, I'm probably wrong and just getting swept away by my Earth-based biases, but you can plainly see that's not a natural object. Let's do the hyperzoom. As I look at this and at the four prongs on the visible end of the strut, I'm wondering if maybe this was a robotic arm in a factory back in the day. Crazy? Sure, you might be right about that. But think about this. Destroy the entire planet Earth in a global nuclear disaster. The seas slosh around like a busy kiddie pool on a hot summer day. Then they boil off into space as the atmosphere strips away. Besides the global scale tsunamis and earthquakes totally off the charts, add in the unimaginably violent explosion effects tearing everything to shreds. Now, put 1,000,000 years or more on what's left, with the above-ground remains exposed to 200-mile-per-hour wind-driven sand, thermal erosion, intense radiation, and continuing aftershocks. What will we have left of the mighty civilizations that once ruled Earth? Not much, I'll wager. Not much at all. I can well imagine some future alien anomaly hunter looking at a desiccated and rusting planet Earth and saying for all to hear, those are all rocks, just rocks. Mud fossils. There's some controversy surrounding the process and the end result, but basically a mud fossil forms when a critter, a plant, a machine, or even a man is suddenly buried in mud. The soft parts are sealed off against decaying right away, and as in regular fossilization, minerals gradually replace the soft tissue parts. But sometimes the mud takes the form of whatever is buried, and later on, when it's freed up from its stone prison, you get a perfect replica in stone-like mud. At least, that's the way I understand it. Just type in mud fossils on YouTube, and you'll get a ton of videos that can explain it far better than I can. Anyway, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this thing. I said to myself, says I, that there's one of them mud fossils. This looks like a large machine that was buried in mud, then later exposed where it continued to corrode while it was exposed to air and possibly rain. Let your eyes run up and down on that piece in front. You'll see right angles, loops, and what even looks like a chain on the right-hand side. That piece behind it looks like an industrial transmission casing. There's even what could be rivets on it, but at the same time it looks like it's caked with mud. Then let your eyes move to the piece in back. There are just too many non-fractal lines for this to be anything but a manufactured item, or at the very least, something carved in stone. It's okay if you want to argue about it being a mud fossil. I argue with myself all the time, and the other guy usually wins. Of course, the best part is, no matter what happens, I always have each other. I had found this one in Nev's new GigaPan of Salt 2611, and I was busy putting it through the production pipeline when TJ, that's Thomas Mikey Schroeder Jensen, published a flat version of it. That's the way things go in the anomaly search, so I'm giving TJ full credit for finding this one, and I'm giving myself full credit for creating the first 3D rendering of it, so there. Hey! It's easy to see something sticking up over the ridgeline, over there just right of center. Now this is interesting. That, my friends, is heavy armor plating that's been bent, ripped, and scorched by some kind of immense explosion. You can see that it's attached to a turret, and on the right side is a grating or a grill. The dome of the turret appears to be separated longitudinally, which implies the ability to rotate upon its axis. Let's move into the visual limit. Take a good look. That's an ancient battle-scarred relic from a long-ago war. You can see rivets along the top and bottom halves of the turret. If that's corroded metal, and you gotta admit it does look kinda rusty, then we're looking at several tons of armor plating resting on the top of that ridge. My guess is that it was blown there in the overwhelming nuclear holocaust that obliterated Mars, that it's wedged into the underlying rocks, and that it's been there a very long time indeed. Okay, let's wrap things up today with this amazing find by Dean Sadler. Keith Laney is a longtime researcher and also puts out some really nice PDS GigaPans that the anomaly community just loves. This context view gives us a great view of the rocky cliffs, and down there in the right-hand corner, something that really shouldn't be there. My colleague, Dean Sadler, located this compelling item just recently, and I felt it necessary to share the X3D version with you. Is there any question in your mind that this is some kind of vehicle parked on the cliff? Besides the obvious aerodynamic shape, it appears to be made of polished metal. You can see the struts between the windows, glinting in the sunlight. Yeah, I know, that's proceeding on the assumption that those are indeed windows. As a retired pilot, it's pretty hard for me to unsee the aerodynamic shape and the way the windows seem to be made for a pressurized cabin, but who knows? Maybe this is just how they make ice cream machines on Mars. Regardless, this is a beautiful find, Dean, and we look forward to more of your offerings. Hey, thanks for stopping by and having a look today. There is a whole lot more to come. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And in the meantime, this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.